All right. This was an abysmal showing for Jordan Peterson. And the reason why I love this is because he has fallen so severely out of favor at this point. He has fallen so severely out of favor. Once hailed as the intellectual titan of the right, getting absolutely cumstered and dumpstered on by a bunch of atheist twinks, hitting him with like the most basic Reddit atheism lines I've ever heard. The fact that he could not manage it because he's just such a weirdo who won't even reveal whether he was like a Christian or not is so amazing. It's so awesome that this is now like his intellectual depravity, his lack of interest in being even coming across as like intelligent is great. And yeah, originally this was 1 Christian versus 20 atheists, which they changed the title of the video at the behest of Jordan Peterson.
A Christian.
And you'll find out why immediately in the beginning.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
Don't be a smartass.
Either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing. Right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
The YouTube video's title literally used to be 1 Christian versus 20 atheists.
Hello there. I'm Dr. Jordan Peterson. I'm a clinical psychologist, a professor emeritus at the University of Toronto, an author, a podcaster, public speaker, and today I'm surrounded by 25 atheists. My first claim: atheists reject God, but they don't understand what they're rejecting.
Good afternoon, Dr. Peterson.
How you doing?
So this claim here that atheists don't know what they're rejecting. My background is in studying to become a traditional Catholic priest, daily mass, daily rosary, going on long retreats, deep into the magisterium and biblical hermeneutics, like I was thoroughly in it. And it seems like I do know what I'm missing. Is there something that I missed over years of study, both this issue formally and living out religion so deeply?
Well, you obviously feel that you missed something when you were practicing for the priesthood. Your aim was off then. So there's always the possibility that it's still off now.
What was off about my aim in the first place?
I don't know. That might take a long time to figure out. But
then it seems kind of like this no true Scotsman type of fallacy in which you're the arbiter of people's aims and how they understand those aims to be. How is it that you can claim that people don't know something that you know about their life despite not having...
Bro, after demons, on the demonic debate lord scale, the #1 demons online are vegan debaters, and only followed closely by Reddit atheists. Okay, there is no. I'm telling you right now, these guys are basically the two groups out there online that you never want to have an argument with. Okay, because they will never shut the fuck up. They will not shut the fuck up until you kill yourself. And then they'll sit on top of your dead body and say, you're not going to hell at least because it's not real. That's what they'll say. Okay. They will overwhelm you with debate techniques you haven't seen. Very dangerous. Very, very dangerous group. Okay. Reddit atheist debate lords are such a dangerous group of individuals that it makes me understand why the Inquisition happened. It makes me understand why they would just burn these on a cross. Like, imagine you're a priest and you encounter one of these guys in the wild. Instantly, you're going back and being like, we have to kill all of them. Okay. Not a single one of them can exist in the world because not even because like it's a real threat to the church's standing, but instead just it's unsustainable. Okay. It's unsustainable.
Met them?
Well, it's obviously a generic claim, just like the atheists claim that there's no God is a generic claim. In your case, it would have to be specified more, and I'm not claiming to understand what was going on in your mind, but my experience...
Because calling is hard. Yeah, dude, it's because they're profound. That's why. And not because they're incredibly annoying.
with atheists is twofold, is that they have a very reductive notion of what constitutes God, let's say in the Judeo-Christian tradition.
The fuck's going
and they've
on with my
often been
camera?
hurt by someone who was religious or by the religious enterprise or perhaps by God himself, so to speak, and that's left them with an animus.
But I think that you have a reductive view of what atheism is. You've defined religion so broadly to include any sort of having aim in life, any sort of cultural archetypes, or having a metaphorical substrate. And atheism to you is a very specific type of like 3 people in the world that are these Raskolnikov type of, they want to get away with a perfect murder. It seems like you have the reductive view of what an atheist is.
Well, let's start
Don't you
with your
dare say
claim.
bless you right now. Don't you dare, chat. It's science you, okay? Oh my Einstein. Don't say bless you.
How do you define the God that you're rejecting? Like, what is God to you? You studied in the church, you found that unsatisfactory. How would you characterize what you rejected?
I think the average Christian believer, when they say that they're Christian and they believe, they mean some sort of God that is all-powerful, all-perfect, is somehow involved in the matters of this world, and that we look to them through wisdom and with the Logos incarnate in Christ. And it also seems like you don't believe in religion in the way that the average Christian says that they believe in religion. And there are as many gods out there as there are believers, because everybody has mutually exclusive and different views of what God is. So it seems
Well,
like...
if everybody had mutually exclusive views of what God is, no one could speak to each other. The mere fact of communication presumes a commonality of assumption and definition. And it's certainly not the case that I regard any archetypal manifestation whatsoever as equally religious. So that's not a real...
Dude, does this guy ever answer something directly? It's just like, oh my God, I'm so happy that this is the last chapter. It started with Slavoj Žižek, okay? It started with Slavoj Žižek, and now it's ending with a bunch of Reddit atheist twinks. And I love that. Just like you. Yeah, just like me. Oh, God.
Claim. Let me give you an example. For
Precisely.
example, there's a sub-narrative in the story of Moses where Moses is rewarded with a glimpse of God. Okay, and that's one of the ways that God is characterized in the Old Testament stories.
Yes.
Now, Moses is a faithful servant of God and a good man. At least that's the case within the confines of the story.
One possible
It's
interpretation.
the case within the confines of the story, obviously.
Well, not obviously. When we look at the Bible can't precisely say anything because there are so many different exegetical and hermeneutic views of this particular book, and that everybody has everybody has disagreed historically on, it seems like, even the most benign detail about a book this big. And it seems like you can only say that the Bible says something if you first presuppose that it's univocal.
So your claim essentially is that Moses in the Old Testament plays the role of a villain or is irrelevant? Because the alternative claim
I'm
is
saying that we
he's
can't
good.
know, because we can't talk to those authors.
If you are going to start with the presupposition that there's nothing I can say about any of these stories that you're not going to disagree with from the perspective that there are multiple potential competing claims, then I can't speak with you. So
and we also have a short time here, so I want to get to the core of what you're arguing here, and I'd love if we could...
The core of what I'm arguing...
Dude, this is unstoppable force meets immovable object. Jordan Peterson is a maximum yapper who loves semantics. He is so incredibly annoying about never being pinned down, like deliberately refusing to be pinned down on any position whatsoever. So much so that he refused to even entertain the notion that he's a Christian. Okay. In a YouTube video that was previously titled Christian versus 20 Atheists. Okay. The entire thing here was Jordan Peterson is supposed to defend Christianity as a Christian. Okay. And he got destroyed so hard by these yappers that he forced Jubilee to change the title of the video. It is crazy. There's a couple really good moments in here, which is why I wanted to watch it.
Is that atheists reject God, but they don't understand what they're rejecting. So I'm trying to give you an example of what's being rejected and its complexity. Okay, so God rewards Moses with a glimpse of the divine. So this is a definition of the God that atheists are hypothetically rejecting.
A possible one.
I said I didn't say the. I said
That is possible, yes.
I said,
So despite the fact that Moses is a stellar character and he's had a long and difficult life and can withstand a lot of difficulty and travail, God puts him between two cliffs. So he can just see a crack of what's in front of him. And when God walks by, he allows him to see his back. Okay, so the implication of that story is that the divine is fundamentally unknowable. It's a pinnacle experience, and that people in their finitude have to be shielded from a comprehensive vision of the basis of reality. Well, that's not the God that's defined in that manner, right? It's not a simple personification. It's not a simple old man in the sky. It's something that in its essence is unknowable and overwhelming. And that isn't, in my experience, the God that's defined by atheists who are attempting to undermine the story. I mean, it's the same claim, for example, that you're a finite creature and that you face something that in the final analysis is unknowable, and that you have to establish a relationship with it regardless of your inability to perceive or even withstand perceiving the whole. Okay, is there a problem with that?
I mean, the problem is that when we look at, famously, when you've been asked, do you believe in God? The question becomes, what do we mean by God? And in the Bible, it's not even clear the biblical authors know what God is, because Yahweh has historically emerged from an early storm god, a deity that doesn't exhaust the category of deity, and that has changed over the Old Testament. Does God have physicality? Does God not have physicality? It seems like, yes, if you define religion to mean anybody that has an aim, anybody that looks at the unknown, anybody who wants to go from chaos to order is inherently religious, then yes. But also in the same way, I could define atheist as somebody who doesn't dogmatically believe in a religion, or somebody who doesn't regularly attend religious services or belong to a denomination. To help especially the audience kind of like boil this down, there was a lot of words there. That the central claim is that we exist somewhere between the finite and the infinite.
A central claim.
A central claim is that we exist somewhere between the finite and the infinite.
No, I said that we were finite and we had to establish a relationship with the infinite.
Yeah, then in that case, then we're all religious, but then I can do the same thing and define one particular element of atheism. It seems like we both have a reductive view of what the other side looks like, to the point where a conversation seems incoherent, and not just incoherent, but not in the way that the average Christian understands Christianity to be.
Do you have a
Okay,
problem
let's
with...
pause there. Sorry, you've been voted out by
Awesome.
the majority.
They are dorks. I know. They are.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
David. Lono, L-O-N-O.
I don't know anything about the Polynesian deity Lono.
So you're rejecting something without knowledge of what you're rejecting.
I'm not rejecting it. No more than I'm rejecting
believe in
anything that
Lono?
I don't know anything about.
Do you believe in Lono?
I
Do you
fail to
believe
see
that
the
he is a
relevance of
deity that exists in the world, exists in the universe, that exists in the existence of everything? Do you believe that Lono
I'll
is
answer
a
that
being?
question once you answer my question, which is, do I reject everything that I'm ignorant of? Because that's your presupposition that undergirds your argument, and unless you can prove that that's valid, then there's no point.
My question is quite simple.
Yeah, but that doesn't
Do
mean
you
it's
believe-
formulated accurately.
Do you believe that Lono exists? Yes or no?
I'm not going to answer that question for the reasons I just described. You already insisted that if I reject something, that if I'm ignorant of something, I reject it. Do you think that everyone in the world has to know everything simultaneously for that to be valid and true?
I think in order for your
Answer that
argument
question.
to be true, in order for it to be true that we atheists don't understand what we're rejecting, then you need to also apply that to yourself and to Christians and to Muslims and to any other person on this earth, where if you don't understand...
Oh my God. I just realized they both sound like different versions of Kermit. Like, this guy sounds like new Kermit, and this guy sounds like old Kermit. Wow. Just a, random thing that I noticed. I know it's not the main point here.
understand what you're rejecting the belief in, then you can't reject the belief in it. That's the implication of your
I
your
didn't
claim.
say that I rejected the belief in Lona.
Focus on the debate. You're zoned out. I'm not. They're just arguing because the initial point that Jordan Peterson presented here is atheists don't understand what they're rejecting. So this dude is making an argument to Jordan Peterson about the existence of a Polynesian deity. If you don't know what this Polynesian deity is, why do you reject it? And it's silly because all right, let's just skip this part.
Coming here to the studio, I was physically moving. I was changing my position. If I said, I believe the Mona Lisa is very moving, and you said, you don't really understand what you're saying, it's nailed to the wall, I would say that you're the one who doesn't understand what I'm saying, not the other way around. And the way that relates to this.
Oh my God, this is so, oh wow. It's like a hyper focus on semantics on steroids. Okay. Morality and purpose can't be found with science. Okay, this is a little bit more interesting as a premise, as a claim. Okay, I think this is a more interesting claim. Let's see.
Purpose cannot be found within science.
I disagree.
What is up, Mr. Canada?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
What's
How are
your
you?
name?
Brian. I think
Yeah, is the Christopher Hitchens argument that Christians don't believe in Zeus, so they're just atheists minus one God?
it's interesting that you say that morality and purpose can't be found in science. Actually,
No, within science.
sure.
Yeah.
Purpose, I actually grant you, because purpose is subjective, right? Unless you want to boil it down to the purpose of life is just to procreate, right? Sure, whatever. Morality is actually something that we do see. We actually have examples of Neanderthals and older individuals found in a tribe, missing an arm, missing teeth, still alive somehow in his 40s, 50s, right? Typically, you're a Neanderthal, you can't eat, you can't hunt, you die, right? But we know that members of his tribe were taking care of him, right? So we know that at some level, early in our evolutionary history, we actually developed altruism. We have examples of chimpanzees who actually have a basic understanding of fairness, right? If you give a chimpanzee 2 grapes, right, and his buddy gets 3, right? He actually freaks out, right? But you give both chimps 3 grapes and they're good. We have examples of parrots.
Except for the greedy chimps.
Except for the greedy chimps.
They want 4 grapes.
They want 4 grapes. You know, those do exist, right? But we have similar examples where we do animal tests, right? And
So morality is intrinsic.
I think
So it precedes science.
that actually
right?
a better way to define it would be that social animals, which we are, right,
Yeah.
require some level of morality or
Into what? I'm not disagreeing.
Sure.
Why do they require that?
because it's the only way that social groups can actually survive, right?
That's my point with
Sure.
regards to science. Thank you very much.
Is that
Precisely the point that you just made, that science has to exist within a moral framework that isn't in itself scientific.
how's that not scientific?
Well, because it's not derived from the scientific process, as you just
It
indicated.
doesn't need
by
to derive
pointing
from the
to-
scientific process.
Well,
It's
hang
the
on,
fact that
hang on a sec.
we are social animals, and we need that to exist as a group.
I
right?
agree, but
Sure.
you pointed to the morality of Neanderthals, to the morality of chimpanzees. They didn't derive that from science.
They don't need to. That's not how
That's
that
my
works.
point.
I like that his premise is his firm commitment to this premise that like religion is ever present and it always existed and has taken different forms. So humanity's existence comes after the existence of God and religion is this like unshakable perspective that he has, even though they're supposed to be having an argument about like science being an observation of all of this observable phenomena and religion basically being a rule set that they have created off of, the same observable phenomena that they could not actually observe through the scientific process at that point. But for him, it's like, well, religion predates mankind. It's just everything is religion. Everything is Christianity. Everything is all morality is all morality. It comes from Christianity, or I guess like this would be like from a primitive accumulation version of Christianity for Jordan Peterson. I win because I will not shake away from my position.
Point.
Science explains it. So
No, science doesn't explain morality.
it doesn't explain how social animals would need to be.
Well, that's
Altruistic?
a complicated question.
Is it? But we see it though.
Yeah,
That's a
but
complicated
explaining
question.
the evolution of morality and explaining morality itself aren't the same thing.
Okay, so you're asking why does this happen?
Yes, that's more accurate.
Because we're social animals.
Okay. Oh my God. So boring. Holy shit. I'm going to die. Oh my God. I can't do this. Oh God. Jordan Peterson is so incredibly dull. Like, I feel like he uses being boring as a weapon. I will say this. I think that modern conservatism has evolved, or rather devolved, to no longer even entertain the notion of like being intellectually superior, where I think that there is definitely an anti-intellectualist slant associated with modern conservatism, and therefore there is no use for the likes of Jordan Peterson anymore. There's no use for the likes of Jordan Peterson. So now people can just like put him in the dustbin of history, or they're just like, yeah, he doesn't even have an audience among conservatives anymore.
It's a systems-based reality.
Is there a hierarchical
and that is
structure?
what the quantum...
Is there a hierarchical structure? Are some things more important than others?
Are some things... I think some things lead to more benefit.
What is... How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I guess since you said morality and purpose cannot be found in science, it would just depend on like what you're referencing. If you're saying a description of your psychological preferences would be considered within science, sure. But I don't think that you have to say that it comes from science in order to be like an atheist. As an agnostic atheist, I don't know if God exists and I don't believe that a God exists. And the only ones that I would really reject would be like the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good, perfect notion of God that plenty of Christians like prescribe themselves. So I guess...
How is that relevant to this claim?
You're basing a position of morality and purpose in some like notion of God that isn't the same type of notion of God that typical Christians would prescribe. Your notion of God is...
What typical Christians?
Yeah, typically when I talk to Christians, they say that they believe in an all-knowing...
How about Cardinal Newman, who defined God as conscience? He's a major influence on all of Catholic social theory. How about that Christian?
Sure. So do you believe in the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good notion of God?
What do you mean by believe?
Do you think it to be true?
That's the circular definition. What do you mean
How
when
is
you
that
say
circular?
you believe?
No. I mean, I saw this, and he's gonna cook him on the semantic side here because again, debate lords love this is like the perfect question to ask a debate lord, because Jordan Peterson also is a debate lord of a different sort. He will just like dive into he will dive into like establishing definitions for simple concepts like believe. Like, what do you mean by believe is an insane question to ask in this debate. Let's hear.
How is that circular?
Because you added no content to the answer by substituting the word true and believe.
I said you think it to be true.
All right. So if
What's
you
a
believe
belief?
something, you stake your life on it.
What do you mean by that?
You live for it and you die for it. That's what I mean by that. It isn't something that you say. It isn't something that's associated with logical.
He also always loves to come across as like intense, which you will see in a second is very stupid.
Consistency. It's not declarative. It's not propositional. It's not a figment of your imagination. It's the presupposition of your attention and your action. And you're either fragmented, in which case you worship multiple gods, or there's some unity at the...
He's not wrong. Okay, dude. No. When asking about whether or not Jordan Peterson believes in an omnipresent God, okay, he like turning the conversation around on what he means by believe versus what Parker means by believe is so silly. It's just, what is your personal opinion? That's it. If you can't even establish, if you can't even find like common ground on the English language and its practical application in here in this conversation, there's no discourse. You can never have a conversation. It will devolve into the most pedantic nonsense.
The bottom of it that makes you an unstoppable force.
Okay, so you're saying that you don't believe something if you wouldn't die for it?
Not really, no.
Okay. So then,
How would you define belief? Something...
Yeah, you would kill yourself if Christianity was eroded in the Western world in order to defend it, even though he won't even recognize that he is a Christian.
You say?
Can I explain? Like, I could believe it is the case that this pen exists, but if someone like threatened my life, right, I would lie in order to be able to save my life, right? Like, I think you would do that too. You wouldn't lie to save your life?
Don't be so sure.
You wouldn't lie to save your life?
How much do you know about me? I didn't
It's so awesome. He gets so mad.
lie to save my career. I didn't lie to save my clinical practice.
Would you lie to like save your children, your mom, your dad?
I don't think lying would save them.
No, can there ever be a circumstance logically that lying could save someone?
Yeah, and if you're steeped in sin, you're likely to live in circumstances like that.
I'll give you an example. If you're like,
Dude, what are you doing? I love this combo. This was my favorite because he's just, bro, he's Sephiroth posting, but as like a religious conservative who won't even admit that he's Christian. How much do you know about me? I believe in the theory of the Dragon of Chaos so much that my daughter almost killed me on multiple occasions. Like when I was addicted to benzos and they sent me to Russia for an experimental cold turkey treatment and I was comatose, or after in the recovery process when COVID, when people were getting COVID, my daughter wanted to frolic about with Andrew Tate so hard in Serbia that I almost died again. What is that, if not undeniable proof of the Dragon of Chaos theory? Unfortunately, Peterson's claim is not necessarily wrong. The task of the scientist is not to be concerned with morality or purpose. In fact, that often gets in the way of scientific discovery. People refusing to believe in heliocentrism, for instance, that's part of the reason why we have ethics boards separate to the scientific community.
in like Nazi Germany, and it is the case that there's like Jewish people in your attic and you're trying to protect them,
example.
would you lie to like the Nazis? If
I
they're
would have
asking?
done everything I bloody well could so I wouldn't be in that situation
you
to
lie?
begin with. It's a hypothetical and it's
You
not
can't answer
answerable.
hypotheticals?
No, I can't answer a hypothetical like
What?
that because
Did
it's
you eat
far.
today?
Look,
Did you
don't
eat today?
play games.
I'm not playing a game. I'm just asking
Yes,
if you
you
ate
are.
it today.
If you present me with an intractable moral choice that's stripped of context and you back me into a corner, you're playing game. I just told you
Hypothetical?
I would do everything that I could to make sure that I'm never in that situation. By the time you've got there, you've made so many mistakes that there's nothing you can do.
This part was also very, I mean, if you are to take him seriously, if you were to take him at his words, because I don't think he's being sincere ever, but it kind of gives insight into his worldview, which is so stupid. Like bad things only happen to bad people because they're being punished with like some sort of divine retribution, where he's like, I'm not going to entertain your hypothetical because I would not find myself in said hypothetical. Like, he's just like, would you hide Jews in your attic and lie to the Nazi administrators during Nazi Germany? Let's say you were born in Nazi Germany. He's like, I would not. I would not be in Nazi Germany. It's like, what do you mean? Like, what? Like, you would just like escape? Like, I'm so confused.
Do that isn't a sin.
Being born in Nazi Germany and trying to protect people that you care about, like there could be a Jewish friend that you have and you want to protect them.
I think you should
have
just
them in
give
your
up on
attic.
that line of questioning.
Give up on just like trying to clarify your position? Because you
I
don't
did
like, are you like
clarify.
uncomfortable with me asking this question? It's just a basic hypothetical. Like I could ask
It's
you.
just a basic hypothetical where you put Jews' lives at stake in Nazi Germany. That's just a basic hypothetical.
Obviously, you would lie in that scenario to save their life, but you're like not trying to answer this question for some reason.
I just told you why.
Are you anti-fascist? Like, so you're
Why are
anti-fascist?
you asking that?
I was just asking, just clarifying. But like, okay, again, you're not answering this hypothetical because you know it shows that you clearly would lie to save
I'm
someone's life.
answering it in
Obviously,
a
that's
manner
not
you
what truth
don't
is.
find acceptable.
Obviously, because I care about truth.
I wouldn't be in that scenario.
Obviously, right? Logically, because that's
No.
already happened. Like that's in the past. You don't have a time travel device. We're bringing this logical hypothetical up to show you that in some circumstances that do happen within the real world, you would lie to save people's lives. So your definition of truth isn't actually how we're typically using it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to muddy the waters when I ask you, like, do you believe this? Do you think this to be true? So you don't actually have to answer the questions. And plenty of Christians don't like that because they clearly see that you don't really like want to be associated with
I can
Christianity. with that
imagine
respect.
that I was in a situation where the best I could do as a consequence of my previous mistakes was to tell the least amount of lie I could.
Oh, look at how long it took for him to say, I would save Jews by lying in Nazi Germany. Like, this should not be extracting a confession out of someone by like clamping his nipples to a car battery, okay? But the process is resembling that torturous process. What the fine, you got me. Like, dude, just why? Why are you doing this?
Could manage. But that would likely indicate that I had made all sorts of catastrophic errors on my way there.
So you would lie to save someone's life. So again, you do believe it to be true in that circumstance, even though you lied in that scenario. So
Not
clearly
without
that's not
the
what you see to be true.
context that I put it in.
You were not willing to die for it.
said-
You were not willing to let other people die for it. So that's not what you see to be true then, seemingly.
You're doing exactly what I said you were doing at the beginning of the conversation. You're generating an impossible, restricted, hypothetical with no precursors to back me into a
How is
corner.
it possible? Is there something contradictory about it? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Great conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is the kid. This is the kid that cooked his ass and said, "You're nothing."
Hey, Dr. Peterson.
How you doing?
Danny, nice to meet you.
What's your name?
Danny.
Danny.
You're saying atheists worship things or people or places, whatever. Can you be very clear about your definition of worship again?
Everybody worships something even though they might not know it. By the way, you want to know, ironically, I don't even like fully disagree with half of these prompts. It's just that using these prompts at the behest of like undermining atheism or trying to defend Christianity is silly. This is my everybody believes something stupid theory. Simply put.
Attend to, prioritize, and sacrifice for.
Okay, that's it. That's your understanding of worship.
Well, I could flesh it out, but that'll do for the time we have.
Okay, do Catholics attend to Mary?
Yes.
Okay, so do they fit that description of worship?
Yes.
So you would say Catholics and other people that revere Mary, like the Eastern Orthodox tradition, worship Mary.
Well, they might not put her in the highest
But
place.
you would put it that way.
No.
You just said it. Now you're taking it back
There's
now?
still a hierarchy.
Okay, there's a hierarchy, but within the
There's something at the top.
All right, you can worship things
Mary
below.
is quite a ways up the hierarchy, but not at the top.
Let's go over your definition of worship again. What's your definition of worship?
Attend to.
Attend to.
Prioritize.
Do
And
Catholics
sacrifice for.
What do Catholics attend to? Do they prioritize Mary over all other human beings?
No, I didn't say overall, did I? I didn't
Well,
add that to my definition.
you understand.
I said there was a hierarchy as well.
You attend to
So you can
Catholic.
attend to something trivially, or you can attend to it deeply.
Okay, now
there's
you're
a-
adding stuff to the definition. But your original
I
definition.
added the hierarchy part at the beginning.
Are you
just
familiar?
didn't understand it.
Are you familiar with the Immaculate Conception?
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure,
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
somewhat.
Okay, you're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are very
how do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either
it,
you're a
'cause
Christian
I won't
or you're
talk
not.
to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Abdullah Rasulullah. What do you have to say now? Be gone, atheist. That's right. I have said the Shahada. Allah is the greatest. And Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his prophet. What now, atheist? Checkmate. Jordan Peterson is Sunni. Otherwise, why would his name be Jordan? Maybe 5% Shia as well. Yeah, I agree.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression
private.
I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
It used to literally be Christians versus 20 atheists, and then they changed it. That's so up. It's so up. Because the title initially was Christian versus 20 atheists, and they changed. They're such pussies. Jubilee, come on, dude.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Oh, I'm done with him. They'd rather lose credibility than hold Jordan accountable. Okay, first of all, lose credibility. It's Jubilee. What do you mean lose credibility?
regard
Who
how-
had credibility for Jubilee? Jordan Peterson lost the debate to a child, an atheist child. Claim atheists accept Christian morality but deny religion's foundational stories. Jordan Peterson's framework for understanding Christianity is probably not the one that the Bible intended. God, I hate these debates so much. I just don't care. I don't care about it at all. I feel like the reason why this is Debate Lord's like favorite subject matter to cover is because it's so, I don't know. I feel like it's so inconsequential, but because religion, or at least like religious social concepts, have dominated the planet for so long that they can make it seem as though this is a serious subject matter that we need to discuss. You know what I mean? It's circular, so you can just lab debate perv techniques. Don't miss this one, 5950. This guy also dismantles Jordan Peterson.
Atheists accept Christian morality, but deny the religion's foundational stories. Hi there.
It's very nice to meet you.
What's your name?
I'm Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Yes. So God says that you can own people as property. He says that you can beat them with a rod too. He commands.
Yeah, this is my favorite type of like debate pervetry. One of them did it to Charlie Kirk as well in Cambridge, where he was like, okay, you know, you're homophobic because of a semantic misunderstanding, and you claim that it's because of like church tradition, but also there's a ton of stuff in the Bible in all the different versions. I don't know what they are because I'm not, you know, even going to entertain theology that much. But like it's the classic like different forms of scripture that Christianity chooses not to apply, like mixing fabrics implies that you must die a horrible death, or eating shellfish and things like that. It's just you end up cherry picking certain parts of it, which is why I always say religion is just like any other ideology, and that everybody picks and chooses, is subject to interpretation, and it's really dumb to design society around it.
Man's genocide in Deuteronomy, in Numbers, and in Samuel. I mean, they have a goddamn baby barbecue in Numbers. Like, is all of this in line with Christian ethics?
No.
So then God doesn't fit within Christian ethics.
Well, the biblical library is a continuing story, and everything written in it has to be contextualized by the entire text. There's 65,000 hyperlinks in the biblical text. And you can take pieces of it out of context and criticize them, and that's what you're doing. But that's a mistake. I think it's an analytic mistake because you're putting the cart before the horse.
I really don't think so. I think that if we say that something is Christian ethics, then I think that all of the books essential to Christianity would fit with it, especially if it's like the main character. When we're talking about
How do you deal with
God,
the morality of war?
So
how do you think you should deal with the morality of war?
Sure. Because I feel like the morality, like I feel like Christian ethics, like this is kind of, I guess I just think it's like kind of an absurdity to say that God doesn't fit within Christian ethics, but sure, well, we can go on my ethics. That's totally fine.
I don't know what you mean by an absurdity. What game are you playing with that
Well, I just think that it's an absurdity to say that the Christian God doesn't fit within Christian ethics, that like the Christian God isn't like Christian ethical.
I said that the specific statements that you made don't take the context of the stories into account, and so that your analytical approach is faulty.
Sure.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Sure, then let's go through the example. Yeah, so, and I apologize. So let's go through the example. So in 1 Samuel 15:3, God says, go and slaughter the Amalekites, slaughter the men, the women, the children, the infants. What's the justification for that? Is that in line with Christian ethics?
That's a good question. I don't really know what to do with the terrible, blood-soaked, saturated history of the human past. I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. I mean, what you try to do in your own life, as far as I can tell, is to conduct yourself in a manner that makes such things much more unlikely.
I totally agree.
We're all saddled with the problem of the catastrophes that got us here, aren't we?
Yeah, but this one was commanded by God. That's the problem.
Yeah,
That's what differentiates it from anything else, is that this one, it's God saying, go and do this atrocity.
Do you think that there's ever such a thing as a righteous war?
I'm skeptical. I'm not sure. It would probably be situational.
Well, right, fair enough.
But this one certainly wasn't a just war. The context for the Amalekite slaughter is that 400 years earlier, they fought one battle, which they lost, and God says, that's it, I'm going to wipe them off the face of the goddamn earth. And then 400 years later, he commands the Israelites to genocide their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. That's not a just war at all. And also, a genocide is not a war.
Well, a genocide can be a war, but...
Absolutely.
I mean, for Jordan, this is intellectual honesty, a brief moment of intellectual honesty, as he is an advocate for Israel and its unjustifiable genocide. Well, it could be.
Not. The genociding of the Amalekites, the men, the women, and the infants, that's not a war. The infants aren't combatants.
Look, I already said that it's very difficult to look at the blood-soaked past and to know exactly what to do about it. The answer I gave...
I mean, you can say, imagine misrepresenting history. What do you mean? You can say that it's like up to kill babies, right? That's like pretty basic. Why is it so hard for this man to ever say it's up to kill babies? Like, that's crazy.
To the gentleman who is sitting here before you is that it's necessary to read a text like the Bible at all of its levels of analysis simultaneously. And there's a directional morality that emerges across time that has its roots in the Old Testament, for example, with its restrictions against murder specifically, that makes itself manifest in the Christian texts as the insistence on voluntary self-sacrifice as the foundational belief. That's a profoundly anti-violence ethos.
Do you have the belief in your theology?
Well, what do you think of that? Wait a sec. Now, redress what I just said.
So I'm about to address it, but I'm addressing it with a question. Do you think that God is, by his very essence, perfect?
You'll have to provide more.
Sure, just like maximally great and all, like the great-making qualities.
Sure.
Yeah, like flawless. Yeah. So,
okay,
so does a flawless thing change? Does a flawless thing reveal like more and better information over time, or would a flawless thing say, "Here's what's good. Here is the absolute good thing to do at all circumstances in time"?
Well, we know some of that.
Wait,
Tell
so
the truth. That's one.
That's totally fine, but presumably...
No. You don't get to skate over that. That's totally fine.
It's a straw man of my position. It's a straw man of the argument. So the argument is that God...
Wait a sec. You said find one maxim that's transcendent across situations.
I didn't say any of those words. I'm not sure what conversation you're a part of.
Don't be a smartass.
I'm sorry.
Seriously. I mean it. If we're going to have a serious conversation, conduct yourself properly. Okay. Rephrase your question so that, because I must have missed it. I tried to answer it.
So in my mind, I guess by my lights, a perfect being doesn't change. A perfect being, if they're maximally good, maximally moral.
Does our understanding of the perfect being change?
Our understanding might, but presumably what the perfect being is revealing.
Well, I agree. How do we distinguish between that, though, at the human level?
How do we distinguish between whether...
Between our transforming understanding of perfection and perfection itself.
Between our...
Yeah, well, we can only see through our own lenses.
Presumably a perfect being would be revealing all of these aspects all the time, especially if God's outside of time. I don't know how a God who's outside of time is revealing different things at different times. That just seems like incoherent to me.
Imagine something that's perfect.
Sure.
And complete.
Sure.
Okay, and it's trying to communicate with creatures who are anything but that.
Sure.
Well, they're going to get it wrong.
Sure.
Okay, now wait a sec. Do you blame that on the interpreters or the phenomena itself? For example, are you perfect in attending to your conscience?
Hold on. At the point in time when God is literally the one who created us, he could have created us in a way where we would always be receptive to these principles, where we don't have to go across like a learning curve where, maybe we'll understand like thousands of years into the future, maybe we'll do it. Oh, also, if you believe in an all-knowing God, then free will is impossible because
wait a sec. Let's not go to that yet.
You threw free will into the mix.
Well, that was the answer to your question.
Yeah, and
you said, why wouldn't God Well, you know,
It's
a thousand
contradictory.
years of deep thinking philosophers would disagree with you. But
Yeah,
have
and
it your
a
way.
1,000 years of, or at least like the last 50 years of philosophers would disagree with you. These analytic philosophers, people like Graham Oppie make arguments about the incompatibility of omniscience and free will, that if God created this world, if he chose this world instead of that world, then he makes it causally inevitable every single action that you were going to make. If he made a world where we were just electrons in love, then none of this would have happened. But by making us in this world, knowing exactly what's going to happen in the future, it makes all of those events inevitable, which means that they're all causally determined, which means that we have no free will if you believe in an all-good God or an all-knowing God.
I hate to be a philosophy PhD guy in the chat, but both of these dudes suck, lol. I hate this entire process. But I do like that they pissed off Jordan Peterson. That's what I like. Making me rip my hair out. I like that they frustrated Peterson and made him look and feel small. But yes, this is why I used to constantly shit on philosophy majors and also Reddit atheists in general.
God that made everything.
Well, have it your way.
Okay, cool. So then the free will theodicy fails.
Well, it fails for you. That doesn't mean you've disproved it. I mean,
Do you
you
want to
tried
respond
to
to the
make
argument?
Yes, you tried to make a case for a causally deterministic universe. I don't think there's any evidence for that at all.
Do you think that God could have created a different universe than the one that he created?
I have no idea.
Okay, so then there's going to be a double bind, right? So either he couldn't have done it, in which case he lacks a power, or he could have done it, in which case we don't have free will, because he chose this world instead of that world, making the events of this world instead of that world inevitable with his infallible knowledge.
I don't understand where you're headed.
It just means that the free will defense fails. Like all this, like under
Like
your
I said,
view,
if
under
you want
your
to
view,
have it
free
fail,
will.
no problem. I don't know why it's relevant to the issue we're
Do you
discussing.
acknowledge that under your view, free will doesn't exist?
No.
Oh, then do you want to respond to the argument?
You'll have to phrase it more
Sure,
clearly
okay.
so that someone like me can understand it.
Yeah, gotcha. So God already knows in advance everything that's going to happen, which means that by making this world instead of that world, everything is inevitable, which means that God's act of causing this world instead of that
Inevitable
world,
doesn't mean determined.
it's causally inevitable if God chooses this world instead of that world.
Doesn't
causally,
make it determined.
Causally inevitable means determined.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely, yes, it does.
Well, have it your way.
Okay.
That's not the case.
If someone is an atheist, why do they spend all their time researching religion to debate it? It feels like a snark page for God. Basically, I love that. Yes. I am of the mind that very few people in the process of these sorts of debates actually move away from their religious framework. I think it's like especially unsuccessful. What's the saying? You can't logic. You can't use logic to untangle someone's position if they didn't arrive at that position through logical thinking. And Reddit atheist debates are basically trying to disprove that point. Okay? Like you're literally talking to a person that did not arrive at this position by thinking through it logically in almost every single one of these circumstances. So it's truly a exercise in futility. You're wrong. I moved away from religion because of atheist debates. Good on you. Like religious feelings in modernity have almost entirely collapsed. Okay. In developed nations. Do you think that is a byproduct of debates and people encountering debates? Or do you think that there is, I don't know, the expansion of the expansion of like scientific research that ends up plugging holes that previously religion tried to answer? Both? No, it's not both. One is the actual truth. The other one is just you not realizing that played a major role, not playing a major role in your life because you thought like, oh, it's just because I watched this one debate. Why are you making a binary choice? Because I just don't believe that people move away from believing religion as a consequence of watching someone get bested, like a religious person get bested. I'm sure that plays a role for some, I'm sure that plays a role in some. I'm not discounting that. But obviously, there is a much larger, much more consequential systemic change at play, especially considering that in many circumstances, like I already said, no one is born religious. You learn religious. You learn to become religious. It's social conditioning. And it's actually an incredible amount of social conditioning that is required to maintain, especially at a very early age, to maintain that indoctrination.